Alrighty, gang, we are back with another edition of Dark Power. Joining me today is a very special guest. The one, the only, Una. Say hi, Una. No? No. Una is my girlfriend's cat. She and her family are out for the weekend, and they asked me to look after her. She's only 6 months old, but she's already doing dives off the top rope. She's already taking out the competition on her way to the wet food. And she may be in the running for a very special election that will be happening in Carnyland. But before we talk about what happened this week in Carnyland and on AEW Dark, remember, guys, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already. Helps us, helps you see us rise up on your YouTube page. And moving forward, we are talking now about what happened this week on Carnyland, and it's kind of cool. Carnyland is a short kind of episode of a glimpse of the different things that NWA is doing. My bad, guys. But every day they have different things that are happening. They give you the rundown of the schedule. So Monday there's something, Tuesday there's Carnyland, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This Friday they just debuted with the first episode of NWA's Girl Power, which is all the female talent talking. This week they were talking about mental health issues. It's always something that we need to talk about, need to be more forward talking about, and making more comfortable for those who suffer from those situations, to make them feel comfortable to discuss those things. It's always important, especially considering the suicide of Hana Kimura over what happened with, I believe it was called Terrace House, was the reality show that she was on. The fans of that show weren't the kindest people to her on Twitter. Because of that, she made a choice that has a permanent ramifications. And we don't want anyone to do that. And we want people to feel safe and comfortable to be able to talk about the problems that they go through. So I think it was something great for them to discuss on Girl Power. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of a good episode. It's long. All of the episodes of Carnyland, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, are about, right now at least, are about an hour long each. So if you have the time, go for it. If you don't, maybe watch it on 1.5 speed or 1.25 if you're interested in it. But what I do like is that on the Carnyland itself, on Tuesday, they are kind of creating storylines for us to follow. So it's not just little things like having heel heat or heel lessons, as they did last week with Allison Kay, and this week with Allison Kay and Zicky Dice interrupting her. It's not just the history lessons with Tim Storm and the different Mongrovian geography lessons that we've been going on, these great trips through the rich culture and expanse that is Monrovia. No, they're also trying to give us storylines, things to follow. So in this episode of Carnyland, there kind of was an arc throughout of Billy Corgan having some kind of announcement. His announcement turned out that there would be an election for the mayor of Carnyland. Now, obviously, everybody wants to be mayor of Carnyland. It's a great place. I mean, even Una wants to be mayor of Carnyland. She doesn't even know what Carnyland is. But one person who was definitely interested, as we saw, was Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis, the world's heavyweight champion. You would think that adding the mayorship of Carnyland to his already impressive resume would be something he'd be interested in. And I like that they're utilizing Strictly Business and continuing that heel faction aspect of them, that they are the dominant force in the NWA into Carnyland. I like that. So there's not a lot of action going on in Carnyland. There's not going to be wrestling, but we'll be interested to see how that storyline of the mayoral election of Carnyland moves forward. But turning to in-ring action, we have another huge episode of AEW Dark. Just as last week, there is a boatload of matches, and starting us off is the Natural Nightmares, Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall versus the Dark Order in Alex Reynolds and John Silver. Now, this match is interesting for a number of reasons. One, it is a AEW signed team versus an AEW signed team. All 4 people in this match are on the AEW roster as actual people. A lot of times with Dark, they've been bringing in indie talents, people for the AEW talent to use to get over. Some might use the term jobbers, but that is who people on Dark have kind of been facing. This is kind of more of a return to the original stylings of Dark, where it is an actual AEW talent versus AEW talent. But what adds a wrinkle to this match and kind of furthers the idea that Dark is starting to get back to what it used to be is the fact that during the match, Allie came out to distract QT Marshall. Now, so let's start off with QT Marshall came out without his apple, and he kind of wasn't sure where his apple was, like somebody had taken it. Then, later in the match, from the stands of Daily Place comes down Allie. Allie is not dressed in the bunny outfit. She's just wearing just a red dress. She's got the blonde hair, the locks are down, no bunny mask, not the black leather or spandex, all that kind of stuff. And she's got QT's apple. And throughout the course of the match, she's going to try to See, the thing is, I don't know if it doesn't come across as though she was trying to necessarily distract him so that he would lose, or distract him for the benefit of the Dark Order. It just came across as though she was trying to get his attention and trying to distract him, I guess, in that sense. The distraction kind of worked. he took his mind off the ball and placed it on the apple. As it was, Brandy had to kind of get him back into focus. You know, you're in the middle of a match. You don't want to lose the match. The Natural Nightmares do pick up the win over the Dark Order, and as we would find out the next night on Dynamite during Cody's segment where he was announcing his open challenge, when they cut to ringside and the Nightmare family was shown, Allie was ringside with them. So this is going to be some kind of storyline moving forward with QT Marshall. We don't know how this connects to Butcher and Blade. We saw Butcher and Blade attack or get involved with the Young Bucks before FTR came out. But where exactly it's going to go, if she's still connected to Butcher and Blade, we're not sure, but we'll see. Kind of interesting the fact that they are kind of running this storyline, because I would think that for the most part, a dedicated fan of wrestling or dedicated viewer or the demographic that AEW currently appeals to or is attempting to garner would know that in real life, Allie and the Blade are husband and wife. Pepper Parks, Braxton Sutter, as however you may know him, is married to Allie. So it's kind of an interesting thing to have a married woman being in such a storyline. It's happened before in wrestling. It'll happen again. The famous Kevin Sullivan booked his own divorce. But one thing to note is that when she was distracting QT Marshall and when she was ringside, she was not wearing her wedding ring. A lot of people don't wear wedding rings in general. A lot of wrestlers don't wear wedding rings. A lot of times they'll just get a tattoo there, because wearing the ring and being in a match, things get caught. You don't want anything to happen. But maybe that is relevant to what's happening here. We don't know, because it's a brand new storyline. So there's a lot of different questions, a lot of places to go, and I'll be interested in kind of seeing how that develops and whether or not it's going to involve the entirety of the Nightmare family. It has to, but whether there's going to be something that utilizes Cody as well. Maybe there's something that involves the weekly challenge that he's going to do down the road involving the Blade. Who knows? Or QT Marshall. Maybe she kind of turns QT Marshall temporarily against the Nightmare family, says you should challenge for that title. Maybe there's a match there down the road. Who knows? But a lot of possibilities. And speaking of possibilities, we have the next match in the list, which is Michael Nakazawa and Brandon Cutler. Now, if you're a watcher of BTE, and you should be if you are watching this and watch AEW, you know that Brandon Cutler cut a very impassioned promo when it comes to his in-ring career. He is currently, 0-12. It was what he said on BTE, and so I thought maybe this was going to be the slow start of the Brandon Cutler redemption arc. This was not to be. Maybe I kind of prematurely shot the gun or jumped the gun on this. Maybe you want his first win to actually be on Dynamite, or even better on pay-per-view. I don't know. I would put it on Dynamite now that I think about it. But at the time, I was like, oh shit, maybe they're going to give it to Dark. That would kind of just be cool, just in and of itself, and to kind of build up Dark as something you need to watch, because you never know what's going to happen. But also, in this situation, Cutler didn't lose by pinfall. He lost by countout, which I think is kind of interesting, and could still be saying that this story is starting, and the beginning is saying, hey, he's at least not getting pinned anymore, right? And also that I thought was kind of interesting is on BTE they were doing the kick out challenge, right? Being able to kick out at 2, and the beginning of this match starts with just Nakazawa going for covers and Cutler kicking out at 2. So that was kind of an interesting aspect of it also. This is another match where we have AEW talent versus AEW talent, which is going to be a trend, as in our next match is Jungle Boy versus Peter Avalon. So Peter Avalon has been being discouraging towards Brandon Cutler on BTE about Brandon Cutler's losing streak. Always weird considering that Avalon is on a very similar losing streak. So the heel Avalon being kind of a dick when it comes to Cutler and refusing to acknowledge that he is in the same boat as Cutler. And that boat continues to sink because he faces Jungle Boy, and Jungle Boy picks up a good solid win over Peter Avalon. It's one of the longer matches on this week's Dark, and it's a good match. You kind of get the feeling that they are really starting to get the machine behind Jungle Boy. They're getting that push ready for him. As we will see the very next night, what's going to happen with that Battle Royale, Jungle Boy is going to pick up the win, and it's going to be him versus Cody for that new TNT title next Wednesday on Dynamite. This is just a match that's getting him more and more on the ball, getting that ring rust off, so that next week when he has that match with Cody, he is primed to shine. And that's always a good thing to see. After this, we have Christopher Daniels versus Serpentico. This is kind of a match just to get Chris Daniels back on track. SCU has kind of been in the midst of things, but also not, especially considering they were sidetracked with travel restrictions due to COVID, same way as the Young Bucks. But Chris Daniels picks up a win over Serpentico. After this, we have a tag team match between Joey Janella and Sonny Kiss teaming up to defeat Brady Pierce and John Skyler. These are two additional indie wrestlers who have been brought on. This is kind of just another way to build up your tag team division. You have another team that's jostling for position. Janella and Sonny Kiss, the Jersey, I forget what exactly it was called, Jersey Boys or Jersey Team, something like that. Something to do with, I think both of them are from Jersey. I know Janella is, I don't remember if Sonny Kiss is off the top of my head. But the two of them are same way that Havoc and Sabian needed time to gel. They're showing that these two needed time to gel, and their last match together as a team was some months ago. So having them come back together brings some continuity to that storyline, keeps them in the mix, and is giving Janella things to do, which is always good. Janella's a talent that I believe, if you pay attention to dirt sheets and all that kind of stuff, was having some issues with not how he was being used, but I believe the frequency of being used, and so they're trying to give him more to do if you follow that. So it's good to see him have a match on Dark the same way as he's starting to have more and more matches on Dynamite and on pay-per-view. He was the guy they called to replace Phoenix when Phoenix had to bow out of that ladder match because of his injury. Now, speaking of teams that are building chemistry, building time together in the ring, we have, again, Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian beating Fabu Andre and Tony Donati. Now, this is a relatively, if I remember right, it was a quick match. Not as quick as the Janella tag match before, but it's another just match to show Havoc and Sabian working together, building that chemistry, solid match, doing what needs to be done as they are going to be in the mix of things when it comes to those tag titles. Speaking of somebody who is, speaking of indie talent being brought onto the scene, our next match is Wardlow versus Grimm. Now, Grimm, I don't know that much about him, but there are members of the True Heel family that do know a lot about him. I believe he's been booked on Battle Club Pro, BCP. Josh Marrera can correct me if I'm wrong, and I know that Josh knows Mr. Grimm very well as somebody who he's been following for some time. This match is a solid match in the sense that it's a big guy versus a big guy. You can see the size and strength qualifications of why Grimm should be able to be in the ring with somebody like Wardlow, and the fact that this match ends so quickly and by ref stoppage is a great way to get over Wardlow with us, the viewing audience. Now, we don't need to know a lot about Mr. Grimm for the fact that it was a ref stoppage to mean something. All we really need to see, and they realize that all we really need to see, is that this is somebody on the same size and strength level, or appearance thereof, as Wardlow. And the fact that Wardlow is able to beat this person so solidly, so seamlessly, helps put Wardlow over. It also helps put over Cody for having beaten Wardlow in that cage match, where he did that ridiculous moonsault off the top of the cage. So, all in all, job well done for the 3-minute match that it was. I hope we get to see Mr. Grimm again in the future. I believe he was part of the Tyson altercation with Jericho. I believe he was one of the persons who came down as part of Tyson's entourage the very next night on Dynamite. If so, that's great. I hope they continue to use him. Battle Club Pro is a great promotion. There are plenty of people who have come from Battle Club Pro or been in Battle Club Pro who are going on to do great things. Tasha Steelz is one. She's just recently signed, as Sid brought up a couple episodes ago, to Impact Wrestling. Mr. Grimm is now here. So it's great to see homegrown talent starting to shine. And now that's homegrown talent in New York. I used to live in New York, but now I live here in Chicago. And a great thing that you can always eat in Chicago is a Maxwell Street Polish. But who else is from Maxwell Street? It's not just the Polish, it's also Boom Boom Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana has a match with Lee Johnson. This is another match to build up an AEW talent. Colt Cabana is slowly moving up the ranks, slowly rising, and they need to showcase what he is, what he can do. It's a quick match, and after this, Penelope Ford, who was out earlier with Havoc and Sabian, comes back. She's pulling double duty the same way that her boyfriend is, Kip Sabian. He comes out. She's going to have a match against Kylan King. Not too sure about Kylan King as a talent. I had to do a little bit of research to learn more about her, but looks pretty solid in the ring. Penelope Ford is still a little green, so any chance that they can use to give her more in-ring time, more time to practice, quality opponents to face, always a good thing. And finally, in our main event, we have Best Friends with Orange Cassidy defeating Alan Angels and Shawn Dean. Alan Angels and Shawn Dean, probably to me, are two of the more highly qualified out of all of the talents that have been brought in as part of these tapings for Dark. I've talked extensively about Shawn Dean. Is somebody they should look into maybe signing. I know that Sid was talking about Alan Angels when we were talking about what was going on with Luther and whether or not Luther needed somebody as kind of a person to mentor, and Luther is more of the figurehead person. He was saying that Alan Angels might be somebody that they could use for that. This is a good, quick tag match, but it gets the job done, and they are clearly building Best Friends towards that Fyter Fest title shot. Havoc and Sabian are going to get the title shot next week due to winning a match on Dynamite the very next day, but whoever wins between Hang Mega and Sabian and Havoc will be facing Best Friends at Fyter Fest. Hint, it's probably going to be Omega and Hangman, but you never know, right? Card is always subject to change. But that being said, Best Friends being primed. Overall, pretty good episode of Dark. Can't complain too much. The matches moved quickly. They kind of told the story that they needed to do. They got in, they got out, got on their way. Next person up. They're continuing to slowly build everybody in the divisions, the respective divisions of the company. That's always something you like to see. That's what Dark is here for. And when Dark comes back next week, we will be there with you. to recap everything that happens, and we'll be able to talk more about the elections in Carnyland. Who is stumping for who has ridiculous campaign ads. That's going to be something to look forward to. Campaign ads for the Carnyland mayoral election. I can already imagine them. The real question is this: who is going to be the person who will eat with the people at the Waffles and Tire Iron restaurant? That's the real question, ladies and gentlemen. Who is going to take a picture eating a waffle while holding a tire iron? Those are the questions that we need to have answered. And when they do answer them on Carnyland, if they do answer them, we will be with you to talk about all of it. So until next time, guys, it's been great hanging out with you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We always appreciate it. We just crossed 500 subscribers. We're continuing that march. 600 is the next goal. We know you guys won't let us down. Spread the word amongst your friends. We always appreciate it. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.